Hello. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and head takers to that 6+++ show. I am your host, Tom. And we are back once again to get nerdy with it, talk 40k, have a good time on this lovely, balmy UK evening. We are going to be talking unpopular opinions. We've decided, made too many friends, we've been too nice. It's time to alienate ourselves from everyone we know, say a bunch of awful things that we've been lurking and thinking behind the scenes, and invite you, the community, to do the same, because Lord knows the community love to have their takes and their spicy takes especially. So that's what we're going to be doing today, getting those 40k unpopular opinions out, air all that dirty laundry, have a laugh about it, and move it forwards as we wait desperately for new and interesting things to happen in the game itself. Before we do that, I'm going to introduce my cast of players, going to do a little bit of self-promotion, because of course we are very good at self-promotion, possibly the best. I'm going to start where I like to start. He's limbering up. He's doing his stretches. It is my dear leader, Chris. Chris, how goes it?
Goes well. I'm a tired boy. I've been
You are.
out in the sun. I've got a sport week this week, 3 tournaments in 3 days for the kids. So I've been busy bees. Yeah, my lot got to the semi-finals today of a netball tournament and absolutely bottled it against our local rivals. 4-1 up with 2 minutes to spare.
Oh my word!
We lost 5-4.
Sorry, football is this?
Netball.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm not sure how that physically happens in football. Wow.
Gutted. Yeah, so we won our Cambridgeshire qualifiers. So tomorrow we've got the Cambridge County Finals, and today was the Suffolk qualifiers. I was like, we'll get some practice in. We'll go to that as well because we're the same partnership. I was like, this will be good, do well, and they did really well. It was just this 2-minute period where they just proper panicked, and yeah, that was sad times. But it was a lovely day.
That's a remarkable collapse. I mean, is it on you then to give a sort of rousing speech,
I had to,
Ted Lasso style at the end?
I had to absolutely contain my fury. I found it very tricky.
And because you've never been in that situation with us, you've never been. You were completely unprepared for sudden failure at Juventus when it looked like it was going to work.
It's all over again. No, we rallied and we won the really important 3rd versus 4th match.
This all just sounds so much like us. I can't deal.
Yeah, it really was. It was because it was against our local rivals, right? Our local rivals, they're twice our size, but they always just beat us. Like, it doesn't matter what the thing, they just edge it over us. It's so annoying. Because we are a small school, a little village school, and we're punching way above our weight, but it's just, it's gutting. It was gutting.
I'm just imagining Chris being out there. Damn it, Harley! I mean, Charlie!
Who's Harley? Why? Screaming, shut up, Harley!
So yeah, that was.
The upside is you're looking pretty tanned, mate. So I guess that there are benefits.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and has any warhammering happened in the interim?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
First of all, I have been, of course, making it happen. I'm on 100% at the moment. I've made it happen every single day so far.
Better than me. Well done, you.
Yeah, it was literally. I think I got back on the RCT was the Saturday, right? I got back, I was shattered, got into bed, suddenly went, oh shit. Got out of bed and just put some washes on. I'm on just had them 5 minutes, so that's going well.
That's really good.
Yeah, obviously Saturday we had our RTT, our invitational RTT. I thought I'd have a fun time and take my Harlequins. Turned out it wasn't a fun time, and I didn't do very well. So there will be a video on that. There will be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's worth saying the invitation itself was a laugh. Really, really good fun. Nice to see so many people there. Again, loads of friends of channel, mentees, people we love very much, and some team as well. There were, between you, me, and Alex Chancellor, we were all memeing it, and we won 1 game out of 9 between the 3 of us, which I feel like, mission achieved. Good times had. I very much enjoyed running Great Unclean Ones about, and I got to play Lee Jones, our very own Lee Jones, for the first time in forever. And we had a nail biter, so that was really, really fun. But it turns out Triple Demon Prince EC is better than my list, so I struggled a little bit with that. But yeah, so thank you very much to everyone for coming, and well done to Scribbo for hosting it. It was an amazing event. We're really enjoying those. Like the after social, which our very own Tom Redgate organised, was really, really good as well. Lovely Greek restaurant and really, really good chat. Sam Dunn, who I can see in this chat, made a very, very generous donation to the meal. So thank you, Sam. You're a hero, real sweetheart. He'll love this show because he was certainly giving out some opinions. He'd had a lot of beers by this point, and he was setting the world to rights, and I very much enjoyed witnessing that firsthand. And of course, we got to see lovely Aaron, who's been in the States, came over pretty much just to observe, didn't want to play, but wanted to have some beers and hang out, and amazing to see him as well. So that was really, really fun. Cool. I'm also joined tonight, you've heard him already, by the wonderful Jack, our very own Tau main. Jack, how goes it?
Hello, it's good. It's good. It's getting to that stressful part of the year for all of us some of us that work in education. Exams are going on, and I've got to start doing those boring tasks that involve me standing around, not doing very much for large portions of the day, waiting for something to happen.
Yep.
But it's given me a lot of time to think about Warhammer. So,
great.
So that's what I did past couple of days mostly, was think about Warhammer, and I had a philosophical epiphany about scoring in Warhammer.
Amazing.
That I'll probably end up just talking about at incredible length on Thursday when we do TTS Fight Night.
I'm very excited for that. Hopefully we'll see some of your epiphany in action. That should be very fun.
Other than that, I've been doing some painting, got through some of the Guard. I've had to go back and do some more Tau because I've got a couple of models I need to finish with my Tau repainting project. And also played a game. And I also decided to do a bunch of video content.
You did? You've been busy boy. Yeah.
We did. We've done a Tau video, which is coming out tomorrow.
Yes, it's launching tomorrow at lunchtime, and this is really good because I think we can all agree Tau are not in the happiest spot right now. I played against them round 2 at this invitation. I was like, I think, based on what Jack has said, that if I shove this entire army straight at him, he won't hurt it enough and then he'll die. And that was exactly what happened.
That was not my experience. So you all know, I played the same Tau player, and I went out for a fun time, bounced, and then all of my models died. So
and that's the difference between greater demons and harlequins there in terms of...
Great Unclean One, T3 elf.
Just saying.
So Tau fine then, Chris, you think?
Fucking bullshit, mate. Riptide. Stick it up.
Yeah, seriously, though, very, very cool video. Loads of really useful insights, and I think we probably are looking ahead to a balanced pass soon, where I assume Tau will get some attention. So, it's very timely, Jack.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Hey, you can take ethereals now, at least, right?
Yeah. Other than that, I've just been setting up for stuff. So we're doing TTS Fight Night this week. We're doing a hobby hangout tomorrow.
Yes.
As I say, it's a busy time of the year, so I just thought, why not just double down and make myself even more busy with loads of content.
Jack's gone for the hat trick. He's gone for the three nights of 6 plus content in a row. Should be really, really fun. Hobby stream, that's going to be lots of fun as well. And obviously Fight Night, you versus Ben Pierce. I'm going to do the commentary for that on Thursday. Empress Children versus Guard. Someone's going to be unhappy. I'm excited to find out who that is. There's no way that is ever a sort of 6-of-1 kind of game. It's going to be spicy, so I'm excited for that. Cool. Again, you've heard him already. I'm also joined by the true Archon, the OG, Mr. Rob Kimpton, who's presumably been busy hobbying up some Drakari because he loves Drakari so much. Rob, what's new with you?
Less murder elves, more craft worlds. Yeah. So
yeah,
I've been smashing my my craft world Eldar out. So
you've been doing really well.
Cheers, man. So I've been painting a whole heap. Fugan is almost done. I'll put something up in socials, but really
definitely get this out because he's done a beautiful job. It's just one of the coolest models out there.
It's just so nice. It's so easy to paint. It's such a nice model. Yeah. Apart from that, been playing. I think I've had like 3 or 4 games with aspects now. So what I'm finding is one player's not going to score 50 points, but who fucking knows which one? My experience so far. I'm used to playing armies that just draw everything, and I don't understand how you don't just grind out 5 turns. So it's been a nice learning curve for me.
It's got that vibe. I mean, Wind Rider's the same. So we've been looking at this a bit for England stuff, and quite a lot of those Eldar detachments are basically, I smack you incredibly hard in the mouth, and either you're still there, at which point I surrender, or you're not, and then it's okay. And Aspect definitely has a big swing in it in that sense as well.
Yeah. So 2 games in a row, I lined up. So the first game, I lined up a chosen brick. I shot it, threw grenades at it, everything. Killed, punched it with Bahar off, everything. Killed 4 chosen.
Yep.
Bad times.
Very sad times.
Yeah. Next game, the same unit, one tapped a canoptic court brick of. It just makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Yeah. It's and that's the life. And whatever happens, you're stood there in your little bit of T3 armor at the end of it. So you just have to hope it works.
You either apologizing or saying, "Yeah, I'm sorry." Yeah, that's good fun. That's good.
Would you say has it been refreshing to get on a different rule set?
It is. It feels like a challenge again, just playing a completely different style. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and you have a lot of learning and finding out, right? Which is always good fun. Wonderful. All right, I'm going to shout out some people in the chat. We'll do a little bit of self-promo, then we'll crack on. So Crazy Warboss Gaming, our very own Ed, is in. He says he's personally never frustrated Chris, obviously. And I can believe it. Alex Fowler is in, wishing us a good show. Thanks, Alex. Lovely to have you here. Jerry's Painting Progress is in. Sam Dunn is in, saying he knows nothing of opinions. That is a lie. But I'm really glad you enjoyed the invitational. And then we've got some unpopular opinions already coming in, so I'm going to save these. I don't want to immediately crack on into these. Arad asks, can we get a 6+++ a woo for the new Wolves? So on that topic, Ed has noticed that Space Wolves are coming out, and he is very excited about it and is going to make some Space Wolves content very soon, so you can look forward to that. John Black asks, what's the best real-life careers for making good players? 3 of you are teachers. Chris, you want to field that?
I mean, it probably makes us... Also, Jack's not a teacher.
Jack is much more useful than a teacher, and I want that on record.
I do teach things, but not to students.
To the grown-ups. I think it probably makes us better at explaining things in terms of content than your average layman, I guess. But in terms of playing, I'm not sure how much of an advantage it is. I think teaching is certainly good at teaching you how to reflect on your own practice. Yes. So the major parts of learning to be a teacher. So I guess in that way, we're probably quite good at we're just well versed at reflecting on what went wrong.
Yeah.
But I imagine some sort of stats job or analysis.
I mean, about 75% of our team are engineers, right?
Yeah. I was going to say, within Warhammer itself, and certainly towards the top, you also get a lot of sort of techie and sciencey types as well, don't you, I think?
Would you say it makes you a good coach?
Hey, segue. We're segueing. Yes, Jack, it does. I'm glad you are. I think if we're going to think about self-promotion, we have some very exciting things coming up. We have done one masterclass. We really enjoyed this. It was on list design. We are going to follow that up. We have another one coming on the 11th of June. This is going to be on macro strategy. So this is very exciting. This is big picture stuff. This is playing the whole 5 turns and having a sort of comprehensive approach to your games, and especially matchups. I think good macro matchups is absolutely crucial. A lot of people fall down because they don't understand what the right sort of patterns of play to adopt are. So we will be taking applications for that and entry for that in the Discord, same place as before, going forward. So massively excited for that. Curious to see how large we can grow this. And obviously we had an amazing community last time, so it should be really, really fun. Moving beyond that to a self-promotional sense, I guess, I mean, the event's all sold out, so there's not much point us promoting that because you can't come to it. You can get on the short list.
You go on the wait list. We've got 4 people on the waiting list at the moment.
Mm-hmm. That's in August in Hemel, down in the middle of England. So very much looking forward to that. WTC terrain, lots of nice people. So get yourself on the waiting list if that sounds like something you would enjoy. And then content-wise, as I said, a whole ton of stuff coming out this week. Very exciting. So we've got just launched today, our very own Jack Asher has launched a Death Guard series called Catching the Contagion, starting with his early journeys with the new Death Guard book. Jack actually, I think, has quite a deep love for Death Guard. They're one of his favourites, and he always comes back to them. So I think, obviously, unsurprisingly, this new book has got him very excited. So if you're interested in some Death Guard content, that's definitely the place to go. Obviously, as I mentioned, Jack has a Tau video coming out tomorrow, which is all about the state of Tau in the game and some possible directions they might take to help the faction get back up on its feet. And of course, we have Fight Night on Thursday, Emperor's Children versus Guard. That's a live stream, and a Hobby Hangout live stream tomorrow. That's a ton of stuff. busy bees. So that should be really, really good fun. Looking forward to that. Thank you, Jack, for the wonderful segue. Very, very good. Nice thumbs up. I will read out one unpopular opinion, because Mechanicus says, unpopular opinion, the best part of 6++ videos are the self-promotion at the start.
That is an unpopular opinion.
That's going to make me feel things. So yeah, if people want to really get under my skin, then yeah, just come for the channel in your unpopular opinions. That will definitely be very, very effective. Sam Dunn says, I need a macro masterclass after getting my poo pished in by Clement on the weekend. Got that so wrong. Yeah, that was quite a brutal defeat for the Emperor's Children. Clement, someone who is usually pretty on the money with his macro. Very, very sharp player. Okay, dokie. Right. I think that'll do it. So what we're going to do is launch into our main segment. Today, it's unpopular opinion time. It's time to air those grievances, those deeply held opinions that you have that maybe you think people don't necessarily agree with or want to hear, and then have a good old laugh and a Barney about it. This got the attention of our Discord, I think it's fair to say. There's an absolute flood of unpopular opinions that people have offered.
Which they didn't put in the right spot. You were told, Discord, okay? Tom said there's a community quick answers section, put it in there, and the Discord ignored Thomas and carried on posting in exactly the same spot.
Thanks for having me.
Naughty.
I love it when they do it, because it's organized chaos. It's fine. It's okay. And there's a ton of stuff. So we're going to pick through those as well. We're going to read some of them out as we go. You, the chat, should obviously absolutely be chiming in here as well. And if you have a good unpopular opinion, we will, of course, endeavour to read it out and respond to it as well. The format will be player has their unpopular opinion. They get a moment to justify it. They can be as much or as little justification as they like. And then, of course, their fellow peers are invited to respond. You can agree with them. You can disagree with them. You can talk about yourself, whatever you like. And we'll move it forwards on that basis. It's not intended to be too serious. Please don't hold us to brutal account for everything we say. It should be a good time. And I know for a fact that Jack is a man who has been working very hard on knowing when to strategically place his opinions on things. So I'm going to let him rip here and say, Jack, kick us off. What is an unpopular opinion that you have about 40k?
Okay. I think that random secondaries are terrible, and I think we need to stop pretending that they are okay.
Okay.
I think the way they did it in 9th edition, where you pick your secondaries, was way more interesting.
Okay.
And I think the faction secondaries were way more flavorful and cool, and I like those.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are lots of people out there, not just me, who are sick and tired of losing games because they can't draw cards for shit. And it's just winding me up. So that's my unpopular opinion.
Yep. Okay. So I think I'm going to respond a little bit. I think I actually did really enjoy the faction specific stuff as well. That was a very fun part of 9th design. They were sometimes a little bit maddening, and they did end up getting used as a balance lever in quite frustrating ways towards the end of the edition. But I'm certainly with you on that. What do you guys think, Chris and Rob?
I really like random cards. It makes dynamic play.
Spoken like a true Eldar player.
Like someone who has like a 12-inch base move.
Mr. Grey Knights at Eldari, what do you think of the random?
No, I think they're good. You know, the faction-specific things, I do like them. They're flavorful. Completely agree with that. They were just, like Tom said, they're used as a balancing mechanism.
Yeah.
And they were always too good. So I think if they do want to bring them back, just cap them so you can't score max if you take them. Because you're using an extra option that other people don't have. So give them you get a bonus, take something away at the same time.
Yeah. Chris?
In 8th edition, when we had like the Maelstrom cards, I hated that with a burning passion. I genuinely, like the amount of games I would just like maybe even lose, potentially even like turn 1, because of just bad draws for me, good draws for my opponent. So when I found out that they were going to be doing cards for this edition, I was like, oh, this is going to be so shit. To be fair, and as Jack alludes to, you know, the armies I play absolutely are generally better at secondaries than that. But when I've had games where I've lost where I have just not drawn, I know there's 6 cards left, I've drawn the 5, or I've drawn some of the ones I couldn't score, and I've managed to, unfortunately, not draw the right ones, and I've lost because I've drawn not the right cards, or I've had games where my opponent has drawn the only card that they could score to win the game, right? And I don't know, like for some weird reason, I can't put my finger on why it hasn't pissed me off as much as I would imagine it should do, based on how I feel in 8th edition. I think for me, it's just kind of like part of the game, and generally, they've had a reasonable shot at balancing it out. I absolutely totally get though why you wouldn't like it, and I very much like being in full control of as much as I can. I don't like things being put down to chance. But yeah, my opinion is that realistically it should be the same as Jack's, but for some reason when I lose games and stuff through cards, it doesn't actually annoy me as much as it should.
Yeah, Jack, you got anything else?
I think it kind of I know I didn't play Ninth for as long as you guys, right? So I definitely think that for me, I didn't get bored of the secondaries, because I know there was a certain degree of, you do take the same thing a lot, and then that kind of reduces the way you like that, how much you like it, which, I think that's kind of like a same kind of thing as recency bias, right? Like you kind of have to look at it in a sense of, did I not like it, or did I just get bored of it? And then there's also the aspect of that I think there's something lost on the flavor of the armies, because say for example there was a tower one called aerospace targeting relays where you had to essentially do an action.
Oh yes, I remember aerospace.
In the middle of each of the board edges, right? Which was a totally unique thing. No other army had to do that, right? Whereas now, you all have to stand in the middle to do locus. We all have to be ready to do engage. We all have to be ready. It's just it creates like a homogeny in the way that the armies play, because you all need to be ready to do the secondaries at any time.
Yeah,
which I don't like. I get how there was a balance issue at the end of Ninth. I do remember that. I remember when Necrons and Sisters got silly, but that was like a balancing lever for the fact that their codexes were not very good. They were sort of balanced out of existence. But I think that's just another balance lever. I think that's just something that you can kind of look at with being more attentive with the balance, because if I remember right, it was how often was it you get balance patches in Ninth? It was like every 6 months, right? Yeah. So, but obviously we're double that now, so it's a lot easier to do balance on those sort of things. So and the other thing is that being able to choose 3 secondaries, I think, is more interesting than being able to choose 2 secondaries now.
Yeah.
And I think it's easier to balance choosing 3 secondaries over choosing 2, because it kind of so if there's only one, if there's one easy one in the pack, right, then you can't if there's one easy one for you to score against the opponent's army, like your opponent's all vehicles, right, you can bring it down, you get a bunch of points, but a lot of the time there's not a good second one. Whereas I feel like if you could pick 3 and you have to get to 40 off of 3, that makes it a lot easier to kind of justify getting not necessarily maxing every single one.
Sure.
To me, which I think is just more interesting. I just don't like having games decided by things that are outside of my control.
Yeah, I get that. I fully get that. I think what I'd say is I think at high competitive level the secondaries in Ninth were awesome, because you had these these very schematic lists, very well thought out, both very designed to play a certain way, and as you say, they created an asymmetry because different armies did different things well. I think for me, what I found a bit tedious was I just don't think your sort of average player ever got their head around them. I really don't. I think at the level of picking secondaries and playing secondaries, a lot of people didn't pass that skill check in Ninth, and that made for some very tedious early round games events. I feel like it's a lot easier with the cards now for players of different abilities to kind of muddle through, and it does put a bigger emphasis on the primary for me now, which I think is the killer. It's like, if the cards swing in and out, make sure you smash the primary every game, and that's a really fundamental part of being good at the current game. So the balance between the two is a bit more restored in that sense. but yeah, I mean, I do completely get it. And so the one that comes to mind, Chris, is when you and I played. It was one of the Twisted Dice events where it was the GSC ones versus the Harlequins ones. They both had amazing secondaries, but basically, I'd played a practice game with Chris where I tried to kill him and it hadn't worked out. But I'd thought about the secondaries. I was like, well, basically, Chris's secondaries mean he just puts a boat in my deployment every turn. So if I pick secondaries that mean kill boat, get reward, and I just hide, then that means I'm actually going up on the points, and then the whole game changes around that. And so it's little things like that are very interesting. I do miss those sorts of things,
I think I prefer it when the secondaries are the game in general is encouraging you to play an army the way that it is designed to play and like it's supposed to play in the lore. And you know, I don't feel like that is necessarily the way that it feels like all the time because everyone's kind of doing the same thing.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong, there were lots of secondaries that just weren't very good, not very thought out in 9th edition. But I think that with the way that we balance the game currently, it would be, I think they'd have a lot better time of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think there was a lot of stuff in 9th, they were kind of, like they would change stuff, but there was still a degree of like, are we like they didn't want to change stuff if they could avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think that sort of almost stigma,
that attitude is gone now.
Yeah, it's kind of moved away a little bit more now.
I see that. Yeah, maybe that's something they can experiment with in the future. Be interesting to see if they do. Okay, I'm going to pass it down to the Capitan next. Chris, what is an unpopular opinion about 40k that you hold, or are at least willing to air?
Well, I've got one which is going to be fun, but the first one, the first one is to be that I would quite like to bring back the 8th edition charge and fight phase.
Okay.
You're going to have to explain what this is to me, Chris, because I don't play the game. I have no idea what it is.
Yeah. So basically, you just do whatever the fuck you want. There was some limitations. Obviously, it's quite a few years ago now, so my memory's a bit hazy. But basically, you charged. You had to end up closer to what you declared as a charge. And when you piled in, you had to end up closer. But other than that, you could go kind of where you liked. And there was a huge amount of potential in kind of manipulating things. So you could use it to, that unit's 12 inches away. The one I'm charging is 5 inches away. Through movement, shenanigans, and that sort of thing, you could absolutely get yourself into a position where you could end up hitting that unit quite far away. So you could springboard yourself off. You could cover huge areas of the battlefield just from a charge. I just really enjoyed that aspect because I felt like it involved quite a lot of micro understanding to try and make the most of it. And you had the potential to be really big brains. They then moved into 9th and they kind of kept that essence, but obviously they got the fact that you could only fight the things that you had declared as a charge. And I felt I remember reading the 9th edition charge and fight phase. It just feels it felt a bit more restricted. So I was a bit sad. But you get used to it, right? Yeah. And then we moved to 10th. Now, 10th, again, we're all used to it now, but you can do stuff. It's just so fiddly and it requires such a long conversation. If you try to do it properly, it requires quite a lot of cooperative play between you and your opponent to try and be like, look, I am blocking my base out in a certain way so that not everyone can get around so that then I can do this. Do you agree? Blah, blah, blah. And it's just quite counterintuitive.
Yeah, you can do a lot of the same stuff. It's just more admin to do it, right?
Yeah. I just really enjoyed that freedom in 8th of, cool, I've charged something, cool, but what else can I do? And yeah.
Are you advocating as well, Chris, for bringing back pure OG wrapping and trapping? Because that was a feature of it.
It was so. You know what? When I'm like, I didn't kill you, but I'm going to wrap you, and they're like, cool, I'm just going to desperate break then. But I remember when I was playing, I used to play Custodes, and I had like the bike army in 8th, and I was playing to Tau. And Tau at that point could just shoot you off the board.
Yes.
So the way you won that game was like charging into things, killing a few, and then wrapping and trapping like a firewire so you couldn't be shot. And then next turn, and it was like on the knife edge. I remember playing one game where it just went wrong. I killed like not enough fire warriors or something, and just suddenly my unit was just there just to die, and that you're on a knife edge the whole time.
Yeah.
Then yeah, it was just like it was a tactic to use if you were going to get shot off the table. You couldn't just hide because we didn't have much training those days. So you could like try all these tricks and that, and you could, it was a way of playing.
Yeah, I remember Sanguinary Guard being like, "I'm actually not going to use my axe. I'm going to hit you with my hand because I want you to stay where you are."
Yeah, I want you to survive.
That was a classic Stephen Box move from back in the day, I believe.
Yeah. Thunder Captain comes down, just backhands someone instead of using their power fist.
So yeah, I enjoyed having that.
You know what I missed from that? Just having Yuri and Rakarth in the middle of an army and saying, "I declare a charge against your entire army," because you could do that then, and then you just see what you roll and you go where you want.
Yeah. The dream.
Good times.
Dream.
I don't feel like I've got any skin in this game because I've kind of got used to it now. I'm always scared and afraid of the fight phase for the first year of an edition, and then I'm just glad that I understand it, and then I just keep moving on that direction. What do you think, Jack?
Well, I remember the first podcast I actually listened to before I even joined the team was about the combat phase. And you guys were talking about like all the various jank you could do in it. And I think I'm kind of where you are, because I remember at the start of 10th edition, I was talking about the combat phase and how it was different. And it seemed like they tried to restrict it more to make it less like less feels bad, so you could get people could just have their game ruined by a wonky charge. But it completely failed, let's be honest. Because when those rules came out, within 20 minutes of the 10th edition rules coming out, someone had made a 4-page PDF, which is a ridiculous thing that you have to make it that long, to show all the different ways you can charge in such a way that you get to move wherever you want. So I'm kind of with you. I would think they would be better off just going one way or the other, saying you pick a unit, you charge that unit, you only fight that unit, you only touch that unit. That's it, right? You just go to that unit.
They've not finished the job, have they? Really, with that?
Yeah. Or you go the other way and go back to what you were saying, where you just roll 2d6 and get an extra movement phase, basically. So yeah, I think definitely just pick a lane and do it.
Yeah,
so
John Java says only a melee army player would think that. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, it does. The agency it dials up for a combat player is ridiculous. Ed Watt's saying it might be toxic, but I miss Rap and Trap. It was pretty toxic. It was pretty sad.
When it came off, though.
Yeah. For you, it was great. Like, it was the best thing ever. But then for the other players, like, I die now.
It was great learning. My learning of the competitive scene was 120 Poxwalkers again. Oh, not Poxwalkers. The Plague Bearer list. Whole bod against Ed Force. That's how I learned the combat phase.
Yes, the old Plague Bearers everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine by me. I mean, everything my army flies, so you can have as much Rap and Trap as you want. Like,
and Jack's getting old fly back in this arrangement as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And no terrain.
Oh my god, yeah. Just bring it all back. Fuck it. Absolutely. St. Michael says, I mean, I play Custodians, but I think when you charge something, you should be more or less moving towards your charge target. Yeah, I mean, I still do this, St. Michael, because I'm just not technically proficient enough. Being able to chuck 5-inch move Terminators 12-inch down range is terrible. Yeah, I was playing against Ed today, and he did absolutely try to full send a full 10 Bricker Terminators. Definitely not the direction they were going with the charge, and very almost got away with it. And I was just like, for God's sake, it's still so crazy, some of the stuff you can do. All right, Rob, what is your unpopular opinion, mate?
Space Marines need more codexes.
Okay. Jack's just made a hell of a face.
What?
It's like that meme of the girl who goes, the what? Go on, Rob.
Cool. So Divergent chapters, they've got supplements now.
They do.
They have access to things like Gladius and Stormlance.
Yeah.
Back in 8th edition, God, we're just going to talk about 8th edition this whole fucking night, aren't we? Back in 8th edition, every Space Marine chapter had their own codex. So there was a Space Marine, there was a Dark Angels Codex, a Blood Angels Codex. They would all have like an intercessor stat sheet, and that would be tied to points for that stat sheet in that codex. And it may be different for Dark Angels, maybe different for Ultramarines. And I think it was actually a really good way of balancing, because An assault intercessor for a Blood Angel is not an assault intercessor for a Anvil Siege Force.
You know that the main grievance Marine players had with that system was that when something was broken in one of the books, they missed out on it. I remember John being really cross because when they amped them up in the end of 8th and gave them all the doctrines, the Dark Angels didn't get them, and he was really cross about it. And then they got them right before they actually nerfed and fixed it, so it was no longer broken, and John was pissing. So Marine players sort of wished their way out of that way of doing things. They were. I remember Marine players were really against this at the time. They wanted to have like complete rule permissiveness across the system.
I think back then though, if it was played as a Dark Angel, it had to be a Dark Angel. We don't have that anymore. So
yeah, exactly.
All you need to do is buy another book or somehow.
I do. Yeah. I think I'm broadly with you on this. I think I've not loved Marines. Have just felt a bit like this sort of soupy mess. In an edition where armies feel more bounded and more guarded from being soupy messes than they have been to quite a large extent. That's interesting. Jack, what do you think about Marine players getting more stuff?
I'm kind of torn because, like, on the one hand, like, they're not that different, man. They're just, they're basically the same thing, right? There are exceptions, right? You look at like Grey Knights, which are very different to regular Space Marines. But are the Blood Angels that different? Really?
They feel different in their heart.
They feel very different when you play them.
They're the only one that's fun to play of all.
Sure, you get a couple of different units. Same for Dark Angels, you get a couple of different units, but for the most part, it's basically the same. The only ones that, to me, that really stand out differently are Grey Knights and Space Wolves, because they don't actually have, like, if they didn't have the regular Marine, like the regular units, your intercessors, your assault intercessors, your I don't even know what they call it. I only know the old names for them from pre-Primaris days. Although all those Space Marine units, like, if they didn't have those, if it was like Space Wolves, where you had like Long Fangs and Blood Claws, and all the organization was totally different, then it would make a lot more sense to me. But yeah, I feel like they don't really take advantage of the fact they have different books and make the Space Marines really different. That being said, I am always a proponent for like model agnosticness. So it doesn't bother me that you can have a red Space Marine army and run it as Blood Angels or Dark Angels or whatever else.
Blue Blood Angels, something mad like that.
Yeah. But I totally understand why some people don't like the fact that your Blood Angels list it's got a Gulliman in it, and like it's just being run as Gladius. I get why
it irks me right up.
You know what you could do? Make Ultramarines a successor chapter. So you couldn't do that.
Sure.
They have more data sheets than Blood Angels, I think.
Yeah.
No, I just mean like, you just run your Blood Angels, your army that you've painted as Blood Angels, as a Codex Space Marine army. And again, it doesn't bother me, but I understand why people don't like it.
I think that sort of attachment to particular chapters has died a death this edition anyway, to be honest. It's sort of, and other than that's the consequence of the new, more permissive way of handling them, and for better or for ill.
Yeah, you can bring it back. It's just I don't know what you gain from that, because I don't think they make the best use of the opportunity when they've done that in the past.
That's fair.
It gives them a better internal balance handle, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Donald Carey says Marine Codex should come out letter in the edition. So that could either mean later, or it could mean the Marine Codex should come out by letter in the edition, which would also be very cool.
One a day.
Yeah, just every Marine player just gets mail. It's a very exciting time.
Like Grotmus all over again.
The
8-book parcel.
I do. I mean, Marines obviously certainly in 8th got like a super jacking up and a reboot. I actually think one of the successes of the way they've handled Marines this time is that Marines have been able to hang for the whole edition in a way they just never have. They've always been like, they come out, they get dumpstered by everybody for 2 years, and then they get to dumpster everybody for 1 year, and then the edition's over. Whereas this time it's like Marines are just kind of in and around it. Probably in need of some love in places, but the more active balance definitely helps there.
I think that's a consequence of the more aggressive balancing.
I agree. Yes, I agree. It's not the rules writing per se; it's more the balance approach for sure. John Chavez says, as a guard player, you can cry me a river about not having your special stuff. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, guard have had a lot of lovely stuff lately. I hope you like horses, John. Horses are pretty cool. So I'm going to rattle out my unpopular opinion, then we're going to find some from the chat to react to. So, what's mine? What did I say I was going to do? Let's have a look. Tuesday show planning. What have I got?
Just while we wait for Tom to look up the stuff that he definitely.
Oh yes. So I'm going to go with my second one first. Faction win rate is infinitely less important than playing ability. So much content is very, very glued in on faction win rates. We obviously do play around with this ourselves, so we are just as guilty as anybody else as playing to this sometimes. Faction win rate, I think, is one of these things where it can give you some important information, but there is so much missing from it, and players get very hung up on it. I've had people whose entire army choices and play choices in a moment in time are defined purely by win rate. I find that absolutely baffling. And this is a conversation I often have with kind of mentees and stuff in early conversations. It's like, at this stage, just doing things right is going to be so much more important to you than jumping in on a particular list or a particular build or a particular army at a moment in time. And I think people often use it to avoid dealing with other minutiae and details in the game, right? They'll cry about win rate. They won't really be able to identify what the problem actually is, or they'll, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that's not to say they aren't useful. We've got a lot of data on it. It is useful, but I think people put too much stock on it in a lot of situations. For me, I don't know what you guys think.
I think the biggest issue is that people don't necessarily know how to use the information that a faction win rate provides.
That's interesting. Okay.
And how to take it into context.
Okay.
So let's look at Marines, right? I mean, you were just saying about how they hung the entire edition. They've been in the bottom fifth of faction win rate for most of the edition.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's because they're a bad faction.
No.
And I don't think anyone who plays this game competitively will tell you that Space Marines is a bad faction.
Yeah.
I think similarly, there's other things like Black Templars, right, have a very low win rate. I don't think they're a bad faction either. Mm-hmm. When Eldar, just before the Codex came out, they had a very low win rate. I don't think they were a bad faction. And I think in a lot of these cases is that sometimes, like for Space Marines, for example, you have, I think Guard have this as well. A lot of people play that faction. And so you get a very wide skill range.
Completely.
And by the sort of definition, only a few people are going to be really good at the game, right? So this sounds bad, but I promise I don't mean it in a bad way.
Yeah.
When you add 100 players to a player base, statistically, 90% of them are going to be not great, and maybe one of them is going to be really good. Yeah. So, I know in terms of percentages, because we're not working with the numbers in thousands or tens of thousands or more than that. It means that we're working with player numbers in the dozens, right? So that can really swing scores a lot when you have stuff like that happen, like weirdness. I know it all works on percentages, but it does create weird situations like that. And I think a lot of the win rate as well can get affected by faction abandonment, which Space Marines have this really bad. The Black Templars example I gave. Black Templars aren't that bad. They're just not they're not the best Space Marine faction. They're probably the worst of the Space Marine factions.
Yep.
So why would you play them? Because this is what we're coming back to about people not playing the Space Marine factions. That you just play your Black Templars as Codex Space Marines, because they're ultimately not that different model wise and setup wise to a Codex Space Marine chapter. You just don't take the special units, the unique units to them, right? And then it's fine, right? But that creates a situation where only people who really love that faction will continue to play it, which is fine in some cases, right? Sometimes you get factions like Tau where you have some really good diehards that will play that faction no matter what, and then you'll have factions like I think Guard, where as soon as they're not really good, all the good players just jump off of it. And that kind of really affects the win rate as well. So I think you have to really think and say why is this score percentage and win rate the way that it is? It takes a lot of you have to look at a lot of context around that, like play rate and even individual like anecdotal evidence on the faction, which I think a lot of people aren't necessarily prepared to do. It's almost never. It's almost never this faction is bad, right? So it's just you got to put a lot more thought into it.
Completely. I just think a lot of the key things people need to understand where their army's at and how they can get the most out of it is not accessible via win rate per se, or certainly raw win rate. I think stuff like matchup data is very interesting when you look at faction versus faction. There's some interesting trends in that. And I think there's a lot of other stuff that people miss in getting too locked in on win rates. So we've had a bit of love in the chat for T-Whip. We had, I think, David Gaylord's in. Hi, David. Saying, doesn't that mean that win rates rather just reflect average player versus average player? Yeah, I guess up to a point.
What I would say to that is that the good players will play way more games than average players. Like average players might go to like 2 or 3 tournaments in a year, but David himself will go to like 8, 10. Right, and that kind of skews things a little bit differently.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. Hadn't thought of that. Rob, you had a take there as well.
Yeah, no, I think you're completely right. Win rate is completely off the mark. It's kind of like the top level. There's so much good data underneath though. I know when I started playing teams with you guys, was it last year or was it the year before? And I had no idea about matrices, and then you just jump into the stat check website. You go 75, 80% elo for this matchup. What's the result? There's heaps of data that you can actually get out.
It's so interesting seeing it at an ELO level, right?
But win rate means absolutely nothing. The only thing it can do is give you the people seeing it 75, 80%, and you go, cool, that is a problem.
I was going to say, when we hit the really egregious stuff, and mercifully we've had less of it, that's when it's like, okay, it immediately flags up a problem.
Yeah.
But that's slightly different, right?
I think it just takes a lot longer to get more accurate numbers for that sort of thing. Right, you have to get into like thousands and thousands of games played to get a really accurate for that number to be accurate in terms of like how good the faction is. Like when we were looking at the start of the edition, when Eldari had like their super broken index, like that eventually became an accurate indication of how good the codex was because it was good for like 9 months. 9 months it was really good for. So there was a lot more games to go on for it. So
yeah. I think as well, like, look at who's on the panel. It's like myself on Drukari, you on Tau, Tom, you played all kinds of ship factions that received a shit at the time. We've all done really well. Just because it's received as a ship faction on win rate, they're not.
Completely. I just think there's a bunch of other things that matter a lot more. And I think, people do get very hung up on it. I think we've had an edition where even amongst the very top players, actually, a lot of the very top players have played stuff they are interested in playing, rather than what is considered to be optimally the highest percentage win rate faction at a given moment of time, which I think potentially we saw more of in the past.
I feel like that's starting to swing back now.
You reckon?
Daka people, how many...
So Daka was a bit of a thing. I think that was because that was the first like real broke people had sniffed out in a while, so that made a big difference, didn't it? I think. But even there, the take-up wasn't vast, I don't think, because the balancing is so quick now as much as I think. Chris, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
No, I mean, I think once you played the game long enough, you understand that it's very easy to use statistics however you like to create the headlines that you want, but something as simple as a win rate just doesn't... There are so many factors to an army's win rate that that particular number it's very easy to make headlines, and you've got the Meta Monday that we kind of will pop up on Facebook or whatever each week, and you can like look at that, but it doesn't at all tell any sort of story. And I think it's very easy to abuse certain statistics to try and make your point. But actually, I mean, you could quite easily claim that Elder are actually pretty average at the moment. Whatever they are, low 50s. But then you would go, but then actually let's just look at they were at 58.
They're one,
right? Yeah. So just a particular faction's win rate is it's lovely as let's just make a headline of a statistic, but actually the reality is the player skill, the faction, all those sorts of things have such a huge impact on it that actually it's realistically a complete waste of time.
Yeah, that can be my gripe, is that it can become a kind of headline / sort of angst generating thing that actually means people don't have to
Which
go
people
in.
use that to justify their opinion.
They do, exactly.
Rather
People
than
reach that. I've
the other
definitely
way
done
around.
it. I'm very guilty. I'll have seen a headline and be like, oh, look, this is 60%. You're shit. You're not really good. Your army's just too good. Whatever a stupid thing, whatever stupid grievance you've got with it. But I think a lot of the time it's just a distraction from stuff that's more useful, more valuable personally. Cool.
I think like a good example of that one is like Imperial Agents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imperial Agents might have like a 80% win rate for a week because one person played them and they went 4-1.
Yeah,
and it's like, are they actually 80%? No, they're not.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's and there's lots of other factions that have low play rate that kind of have that as well. For a long time, GSC, like in this edition, GSC had that, right? Because Innes played them and he's obviously very, very good. So he won a lot of games, and that kind of skews the results of GSC when they're, you know, if you took his games out, the percentage win rate of that faction probably dropped by like 4%. So it's you know, I think it's I think it's just a lot of stuff you need to take into account, and you're absolutely right on that front.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like Paulie and George keeping up the Drakari win rate. There's no one else doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Just all these UK Archons doing their bit, propping it up without any help. Absolutely. Fireside Podcast says, unpopular opinion, I think people having gripes about different armies is one of the best parts about Warhammer. I completely agree.
It's like football and different football teams.
There are armies I absolutely love to hate, and I will never apologise for hating them.
We should get rid of Guardian Direct. Fuck it. It's too good.
Apart from the people that hate the armies that I play, then...
Yeah, exactly. they can all die in a fight. I think
you know what's weird, though, about that, right? I get miserable when people hate on Tau. I get happy when people hate on Guard. It's very weird. It's very, very weird.
Oh dear! I mean, it's because Tau don't need the hate right now. They really don't. Also, there's something very deeply ingrained about Tau hate. It's been around a long time. Guard hate's a very new phenomenon. It's only been around for like a year. Oh dear! All right, we're going to pick out some unpopular opinions from chat and react to those. So do keep them coming if you have some. Dave Gaylor, during the chat, I want to hear one of your unpopular opinions. That last one was far too non-spicier. Get spicier, Dave. Let's hear it. And then we'll go around with our other 4 for the evening as well. So what do we have? Donald Carey had my least popular opinions. Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, and Black Templars should be spun off as their own standalone codexes, like Emperor's Children and Death Guard. Completely in agreement with Rob there.
Yes.
It's interesting. In the future, when the ranges get a bit more fleshed out, potentially, it's hard to do that at the same time as a complete redo for a lot of those factions. But hey, the Chaos ones absolutely do get it. I know some Chaos players who are not as happy with their quite bounded little books in that sense. So it's an interesting... I do feel like it's a grass is greener, this one. I just don't think... I think whichever way you slice it, there's going to be something you don't like about it. The Altered Mind, fantastic name. My unpopular opinion... Oh, you even got a brain avatar. Fantastic. Old rules like vehicle armor, templates, and weapon facing shouldn't come back. And people wanting for that are advocating for a clunkier, less playable game. What do we think about that, boys?
I think nostalgia is always a classic thing. So often we'll look back at the past times and we'll remember the stuff we like, and not necessarily the things we don't like. And I think, that you think, I'm sure people in 7th edition, quite a lot of people are probably a bit nostalgic about. It was fun, and there'll be situations in their current games where maybe it would help this game, but the reality was they've kind of forgotten it, haven't they, of what a ball ache it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, ask someone who played 5th edition how fun Guard was to play against and how fun Grey Knights were to play against, and they probably won't agree with you. Those things should come back.
Yeah. John Chavis says, all named characters should go to Legends.
No.
Who hurt you? What's that about?
Go back to historicals, bro.
That's bonkers. That makes no sense. This edition, I think, more than most, has really made the named characters very much like you really want this guy in your list. And there is up and down to that, because I think that plus the characters losing their customizability that they used to have does feel like you don't have your guy on the field in the same way that I think I definitely did feel like in previous editions with your Archon running about or whatever else it was. It doesn't feel like that in quite the same way now, but the named characters are cool, man. They're just fun. They're a good time.
Yeah. I think there's a lack of customizability that that kind of leaves regular characters feeling a bit left out in the cold.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And there's a lot, because I think the game is in general less deadly. The utility abilities that a lot of named characters bring is a lot more desirable than they would otherwise be.
Yeah, completely.
So,
yeah.
And it's the age of there are less examples of character what kills whole thing on his own than there certainly were in the editions before. They still exist, but they're not quite as common now. Saint Miko has probably lukewarm take at most, but rapid ingress, Overwatch, reactive moves, and tac seconds. Not sure
Tactical
what that one.
secondaries.
Oh, tactical secondaries make 10th way more interactive, fun, and best it's been despite flaws. I do feel this. I very much do feel that about 10th. I do feel like there's a lot of interplay and counterplay within those tools. I'm not sure they're all the same in exactly what they do, but I particularly love rapid ingress. I think that's awesome.
What is that thing Innes says? Rapid ingress is the glue that's holding 10th edition together.
Yeah, it's
something
huge.
like that.
It's absolutely huge. It's very, very huge, and it is a fundamental of the edition that I think is one of the coolest things that they brought in for this edition by a long way. Jerry's painting process says you can build your list, take into account secondaries or not as a choice, and with new orders now usable more than once, I don't see a problem with it. Oh, that was in reaction to earlier on. Cool, okie dokie. And then there's a whole bunch of chat about Ed making his long charge from earlier on. And I think Hawks Dynamic says, my unpopular opinion is that Tau players deserve to be treated like human beings with human feelings. We're on board with that. We're on board with that. It means an awful lot to Jack there. Oh, dear.
So there's one here from Jordan Chung. Tanks should not be able to shoot everything from anywhere like they're doing yoga. I don't think we should go back to a point where you have to have line of sight with the gun to be able to shoot it. But just put everything on a base and do base to base line of sight. Good God. Just why are we wasting time with true line of sight?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Custom chapters, regiments, dynasties should come back, says Jerry's painting progress. No, absolutely not.
40k is a cycle, right? You start simple, and then they just keep adding on. Like in 12th edition, we will have those back, almost certainly, I would imagine, because they'll just keep adding complexity. And then 13th edition, they will drop it back, or they'll just call it Warhammer with no addition on the end, like iPhone. And
that's going to happen at some point, isn't it? Surely, it's always sunny in Warhammer. That's what they'll call it. I think. Yeah, I like custom chapter stuff for Crusade or whatever else, but in competitive play, it always ends up being remarkably tedious because either they bring one out that's just the best one, or they don't, in which case it doesn't happen. But we're already kind of, because the naming's all become detached from the specifics of particular chapters. Now you can run it whichever way. You can put whatever hat you want on already. I don't feel like that's something that necessarily needs to make a return. Morgan 8 says, my unpopular opinion is that strength/toughness range should be smaller, not larger. I'd like there to be less breakpoints, where a 1 point in difference has a huge impact on damage. What do you think about that? I've kind of liked toughness this edition. It's felt kind of all right to me. I don't know how you guys feel.
Feels a lot more granular than 9th edition, doesn't it? When T8 was a 9, and it feels nice and granular now, I think.
It does mean they keep making things tougher than Dark Lances are strong, which is a bit sad.
That's why you bring Haywire.
Then you bring Haywire. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about Anti, but I really like Anti in this edition. I think Anti is fun.
It's a great tool, I think.
Yeah.
That again is one of those things that isn't properly utilized as well as it could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Yeah.
I think I like the increased range. I think there's just very slight what's the word I'm looking for? Like the some of the units have just slightly the wrong. Like I don't think transport should mostly all be T9. It should probably be T8. Like things like that are just a little bit off. You can be T7, Rob.
Nice. We've got another unpopular opinion from John. Unpopular opinion: Crusade should not level/upgrade individual units. Treat the entire roster like a single D&D character instead. I think this would be good. I love Crusade, but the people that play Crusade struggle with the bookkeeping that Crusade involves. So if you maybe just you can make one little alteration to your army, plug some upgrading onto the army, full stop. That might be a little bit more mild and interesting, and avoid it feeling like a huge amount of additional admin. I've got Hawks. I know he's talking about rules bloat. Rules bloat, I'm still pretty sure is just I think they just get people talking about rules bloat when it's time to nuke it all. It just suddenly turns up, and you're like, I didn't hear anyone caring about this a minute ago, and now this is the perfect way for people to feel just before they completely erase it and move it and start it over again. Anti-demon / Xenos is just dumb, says Leah Widgeman. I love that. I think anti-demon's funny, and I lost 2 great unclean ones to harpoons at the weekend, so I can appreciate the humour in that.
My Vizark at ITT got to do 6 wounds to Scarbrand with his
nice, yes,
anti-epic tour.
Let's go, yeah.
It was amazing.
Absolutely. Sam Dunn has an opinion, unsure on popularity. Units with 1 billion layered rules create stodgy simulated survivability, suck, and 4-up feel no pain shouldn't exist. What do you think on that?
Definitely should be around with damage reduction.
He doesn't like layered durability buffs.
The problem with it is that it's super swingy, right? I think the feel no pain is probably the worst one on swinginess, because you can go both ways on it, right? Like, because I'm going to do that thing again where I reference fantasy. Coming from 9th edition, coming from 9th age, they balanced a lot of the randomness out of the game, and it made it less fun. There is a point where you can take too much randomness out of the game, and it's not enjoyable. But at the same time, you can go the other way, and it's like the 4+ feel no pain can be quite feels bad. Like that could, like the Warden's ability, for example, because that is Warden, could just be -1 damage or half damage.
Yeah.
At least then you know what you're dealing with every time. You're not going to get scammed.
I hate Custodes. I hate them so much. But actually, yeah, that's the clip. That's the video.
Just a statement.
I actually think Wardens. I think they've nailed it with Wardens. I think the phase thing with them. There's interplay with that. There's counterplay with that. It makes the timing very existential for the Custodes player as well. So I quite like it. I know it punishes monophase armies. I do get that.
And I think it goes the other way as well. If you have armies that have a particularly high access to out of phase damage or multiple phase damage, that kind of punishes them unnecessarily. See Emperor's Children, Demon Princes doing Feel No Pains in the charge phase.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple more interesting takes here. One, St. Mikhail wants a official dice rolling app rather than rolling dice. Rolling dice on TTS is way nicer. That's the take here from St. Mikhail. I'm going to just let that one sit with you guys.
From a speed and usability standpoint, I get what you mean, but I have way too many dice gifted to me from way too many people that I wouldn't be prepared to give up. There's too much sentimental value for me to lose that.
I love rolling dice. John had a dice rolling app when orcs were a thing in 8th edition, and you just had to have so many dice being used that you had to use that.
Hit 3 times still.
I think this is you St. Mikhail, you must be the first person I've ever met who's like pro TTS dice. TTS dice drive people insane because the variance on it is just so buck wild, to put it mildly. Like, so I think it just has days where it's like red tray is going to get whatever red tray wants, blue tray is going to suffer relentlessly until this game is over. Like,
yeah, when you roll 6 dice and you roll the perfect Yahtzee, it happens way too often.
I have not spotted that, but I love that you've been keeping an eye on it. John says Blast should give damage rollover instead / in addition. Please no. Please, from the bottom of my squishy GSC heart, please don't do that. Don't do that to me. That's the end of it. I'll be off the board. Oh, my word. Right. Okay. We're going to take it round with our opinions again, and then we're going to dive into podcast questions, which is, spoiler, more unpopular opinions from you guys. Do keep them coming in the chat, though. We really appreciate you. At this stage, we'll do a little bit of self-promo once again. Thank you for tuning in. It's amazing to have so many of you here. Thank you for all your support. Please do hit like and subscribe on the video. That's really, really helpful for us. It all feeds the algorithm, and obviously it's amazing to have more people following us on the journey here as well. If you leave us a comment on the video, that's amazing as well. If you would like to sign up and support us as a YouTube member financially as well, we have over 100 now. We make members-only content for them. Got a whole bunch of access and additional stuff there. And of course, we do coaching as well. If you want to come and be coached in leveling up your 40k game with one of the team, we got 40, 50 mentees in there now. We're having an amazing time working with them, and I can really speak to the value of it. We've seen a whole bunch of people really, really coming on leaps and bounds with that. So if that sounds like you, come drop us a message, get involved. Alrighty. Jack, let's go. What's your next unpopular opinion?
This one's going to come off a bit mean-spirited, but sometimes I think these things need to be said.
Look, self-awareness is all we need. Let's go.
I think the codexes are an awful product, and I think Games Workshop should feel bad.
That wasn't what you wrote when we discussed this. That's worse than it was.
I think it's been particularly poor in this edition, I think.
Okay. Let's hear
and
it.
I think from a gameplay perspective, I think the balance theme is kind of just like holding it all together with paper clips and duct tape, and it's kind of working. But I think the codexes as a product are just, I think they're an embarrassment, quite frankly. Like the way that the way that the app started off so good, and then you slowly had features taken out with the codexes coming out, is just such a feels bad from a consumer's point of view. I think the lore is getting repeated a lot. I mean, this has been happening for years, but I think it's kind of getting to the point now where it's getting a bit silly. I think there's just some of the artwork as well. I think, particularly the newer artwork, is very disappointing. The one that sticks out to me is on. I'm just gonna. The Tau book is the one that makes me the most angry because it's the one I've looked at the most. But there's on all the codexes. There's when you have the detachments. There's a little like picture, like header picture at the top for Montcar. That has a suit that kind of looks like Farsight, but it's not Farsight. And then with a sword, and then there's two battlesuits in the background that also have swords, but no jetpacks. What are these units? They don't even exist. Like, what are they? They're ridiculous. Like, has someone just not played 40k drawn this, or was it an AI? I don't know. Maybe it was. That's what it's.
Yeah.
It could be that. I shouldn't be thinking that it could be that. Like, you know, there's little stuff like when it goes through all the different sets in the Tau book, some of them are just named wrong, or they have the wrong symbols next to them, or you know, it's just lazy. Like, I don't understand why. Like, you got it right in the last book, why can't you get it right in this one? Like, it's just it's a real shame. And you know, as John Chavez, I guess I pronounced that in the chat says, points right a date before the codex is legal and events. Again, like that section in the book is a complete waste of time. And I think there's so much in the books that there's just it's so far off base, and there's so much fixing that the balance team has to do. That I just think it's an embarrassment, really. Like, it's just, they could have put out such a better product if they wanted to. Like, for me, the dream would be either sell the rules on a subscription basis, or like buy the code, right, for your app. If you want, that's what you get, and then you can make the codex like an actual collector's edition product. You can sell it at a higher price. You can put actual nice you know, artwork in there, and all that sort of stuff, and crusade rules and all that kind of things in there, you know. And it just, as it stands now, it just seems like it's a bit of a legacy product that they're kind of just throwing out there without much effort put in. It's just the bare minimum, and it just generates a bunch of money because everyone needs one. And it's just it really gets my goat. I don't like him at all.
Rob, Chris, how do you feel?
The only page I read is the back page with the 12-digit code you put in the app.
I'm a little bit down with codexes, which is a real shame. I used to love them to bits. I don't spend a lot of time diving into them anymore, which is a shame.
Exactly the same. That was exactly the point I was going to make, which was that I don't care about the codex this year or this edition. Like, beforehand, it was, your book's going to come out, you get the book, you read through all of it, etc., etc. Now I'm just like, just give me the code so I can list build, but I'm actually not invested in what it looks like, and I think that is a big shame, because
I do wonder if that's where we are in the because like we're all up to date with law. I wonder if that's for new players, if it is a different experience.
I don't think I am up to date with law. I think when they did Arcs of Omen, I was like, I checked out. I think
you know the gist of what's going on.
Angron's back. That's cool. Don't really care what he's doing. Just cool that he's here. You know, I think that was my last sort of.
You're meant to be moving on, right? And I think that's a general issue with the contract at the moment, is that the storyline isn't particularly moving on in any sort of interesting way. There's nothing exciting. It's just something might occasionally happen, and then
It's
no, it didn't actually happen.
It's sort of not really supposed to, is it? Because
There's
more
no
of
consequences.
It's a backdrop for the toys. Yeah.
When I got my guard codex, I looked at it and I was like, I'm going to read through this whole thing and get all of the information from it, and then that's basically it. I don't have to read it again. So I looked at it and I was basically done with it in half an hour.
Yeah,
because there was so little in there of
there's
substance.
so much less. Yeah.
You know, like that. I mean, most of it's data sheets, right? But a good chunk of it is combat patrol rules and stuff like that, which is not really relevant. And then obviously you have the pictures of the painted stuff, which is fine.
Mm-hmm. I do enjoy the pictures.
Those are always really solid. They're they're well photographed, they're well painted. But yeah, there's like a handful of short stories which are okay, they're all right, and then there's a bit of information about the faction in general. But I compare that to say like a 5th edition codex, where you had like a full history of like a faction going back along over a longer period of time. It just felt more full. This just feels like it's this feels like a Wikipedia article of lore, like a primer for the whole faction rather than a whole codex. And it's just it's really disappointing because in the end I read that book for half an hour and then I donated it to the Warhammer Club at my school.
Yeah.
And I go back 3 weeks later, they've not read it. They just read the rules out of it. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, for sure. But I think there's an extent to which the more you streamline it into just a gaming product, the more the other stuff which it has historically been about, of which lore is one, gets kind of lost, right? And
it already is.
It's a two-way process in that sense.
It's a shame they're capable of doing it because they're doing it in Kill Team. I read the Nightmare box.
That one's really good. The Mandrake and Night Lords one. It's fucking banging. Yeah.
That's the first bit of lore I've read in ages, but I heard about one of them in it.
They stand back to back and then they accidentally cast a shadow that the Mandrake pops up in.
Yeah, the Night Lords
so good.
Make a circle in it.
Yeah,
Nightwing pops up and kills them all.
So good. It's so good. Yeah, for me personally, I think the work lies with me with codexes to get more out of them because I've not even tried. But I think if you've dived in deep, Jack, and it's been found wanting, then that it doesn't surprise me because they have looked and felt lighter in that sense in recent times.
They could have a bunch of stuff about individual like heroes or characters. Like they could, I mean, don't get me wrong, they do have that. Like they have like a page about characters that exist, but they could have things like the Guard Codex could have things about characters that aren't in the rules, right? You know, the Vestroyan characters. They
used to do a lot of that, right?
Yeah, and the Talon characters, even things like Minsk from the new books that they were selling the little command squad recently, stuff like that. Like they could really sort of enhance someone's understanding and love for the lore, like for creating characters like that. I just think it's a bit of a wasted opportunity, really.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think in some ways they've become more hostile to the more sort of creative dimensions of that because they themselves have gone more in a direction of what we sell must be in here, and then nothing else. We're not really worried too much about models and characters beyond that. So I can see how that's streamlined it down a bit. Alrighty, Rob, what is your next unpopular opinion? So let's go.
I've got two. I don't know which one to do.
Spicy
that one.
The spicier the better at this stage. Let's spice it up.
So when you're in an event,
no,
I don't think pairing should be done until just before the first round.
I agree.
No,
I want to rock up to a table, and I want to play against someone and not play against their gaming group who have come up with an entire fucking plan, practice deployment 12 times against this particular matchup and particular list. I want people to have to actually.
Chris has played against a guy who played against his list on TTS before they played.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah. No, I don't like that.
It removes the. I need to figure out in the next 3 hours
the general shit. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I like winging it between rounds a lot more than that first round pairing.
Yeah.
I find there's a lot of unproductive overthinking as well. I find.
Yeah, I don't like not sleeping for 3 days because I think every way I'm going to lose as well.
Yeah.
That's a you problem. I'm very against
this.
Is
your own business, Rob.
I'm very against this.
Okay.
I think it's creates a lot more hype and stuff that you can talk about with your friends.
It does do that. It does do that.
And I think that you have 4 other rounds where or 3 other rounds, sorry, where you don't get to see what the pairing is beforehand. So you get to have that skill, and then you also get to have it the other way, where you get prep beforehand. So I think I like having it both ways, and I think it kind of unnecessarily punishes people who aren't super experienced and don't have a large gaming group to draw on as well.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, like, okay, sure, maybe, if you're playing a team, like if you get an Ignite or a Mind Goblins round 1, and they're going to practice the hell against your list, like,
or worse, they won't need to.
That's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of the time, they won't need to do that anyway.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people that would do that don't need to do that.
Yeah.
And if they do that, a lot of the time, you're not going to play it the way that whatever they played against it was. So
no, for sure,
it's not even helpful to them.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance to strike. What do you think, Chris?
I don't like it when it's given to us on like the Monday or Tuesday. I think having like such a huge amount of time just to dwell on it isn't necessarily healthy. But I wouldn't be. I quite enjoy that aspect of, obviously, during an event we just like it and lump it, right? We get the pairing and go no. But I do, as Jack says, I quite enjoy that day or two beforehand where you all kind of you find out what everyone's playing. You do have that time to discuss it, and it helps build buzz for the event. And I do like that element of it, but I can certainly see the advantage to only finding out on the morning of, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's very reasonable.
Sitting on the fence. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You sit on the fence if that's what you want to do. What's your unpopular opinion, Chris?
Well, this isn't on the fence.
No.
So we've worked out how to phrase this, and I'm going to make a statement. I'm going to apologise, and then I'm going to try and justify it. But basically, a great man once said, "Casual players are just competitive players that are bad at the game." So I should picture the scene, right? It's your Wednesday night gaming night, and you're off to the club to play Bill. You're glad your gaming night is on a Wednesday because you get to listen to our podcast on the Tuesday. You've got TTS on the fight night on the Thursday. Life is good.
Yeah.
You're listening to all these people who have some sort of half decent opinion, and you're really excited for your game. Unfortunately, you are playing against Bill. Now, Bill's got a bit of a reputation. He's been playing 40k since he came out of the womb. He's probably in his 40s. He's also collected 40 armies in his time because, whenever something new and good comes out, he decides to buy that army and buy all the units that are absolutely that army. He's formed his opinions on this based on Reddit, because obviously Reddit is where all the good knowledge goes. So he's kind of sort of learnt the rules. You're going to be playing into his Death Guard because he's bought it back, but he's got Death Guard. And you walk up to the event, and he kind of the game, and he puts down the models, and you just proceed to have a pretty miserable time. He constantly argues with all the different sorts of rules. He can see the tiny tip of one of your weapons, and so proceeds to annihilate your poor squad that you thought were hidden. And he does a whole host of things that makes you feel leaving a bit sour, and you didn't really have a nice time of it on your Wednesday night. And you look over in the corner, and there are all these guys who do go to tournaments over there, and they're having a great time. They're helping each other measure. They're talking about their moves and tactics, and they're trying to work out the best way of playing the game. And you think maybe Bill's opinion that tournament players are all wankers isn't actually true, because he may talk about it all the time. But is it true? And I think, look, obviously I know that there are plenty of wonderful people who play casual 40k, but I can, having come from through the rankings, if you so to speak, if I think back to when I first started playing 40k, and I'd go down my club night, and all the guys like Jamie, Dave, Paul, we all had a good time. good God, did we take it seriously? Like for one night every week, we took that game so seriously. I used to get so much anger in games like then compared to like I do now. Now I just don't care. Like even if it's a tournament, but there it was just like it was just such a huge deal. You really wanted to get one over, and that was the big thing. Did you win or lose on that one night? And actually, it probably led us to not playing the game in like the right way. And, you know, let's face it, tournament players have a bad reputation. I've played, I dread to think how many hundreds of tournament games now. I can count on one hand the number of bad experiences I've had, and I think, I think the people out there who are saying that, oh, competitive players are all just dickheads, blah blah blah. Actually, it's not the competitive players that are the problem. It's you, the casual player.
Jack, Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's I've had more bad casual games than tournament games, and that's from those, like you say, the person that you know at that local. That when you get paired into them on that random pairing, you're like, oh, I don't really want to go anymore now. How could I get out of this?
Yeah.
And it's people are good at the game, play it like a game playing together, and other people don't.
Jack, what do you think?
I don't think there's any correlation between whether you are a casual player or a competitive player and whether you are a bell end or not. And I think that's really what it comes down to, because you know there are people who will go to a weekly club and will act like a knob, and there are people who will go to tournaments and act like a knob. We know this. There are people who get banned from stuff like the UKTC circuit, from other tournament circuits all the time. We know these assholes are out there, and I think that it doesn't really matter what kind of way you enjoy 40k. I think there's always a chance you're going to encounter these people. So I don't think it's you can demonize any one particular aspect of the.
But we want to, Jack. We want to demonize them. It's fun
because I don't even think it's casual players. I don't think. No. I played a casual game the other week. Actually, I taught someone 40k, and
did you win?
We didn't do scores. That's the point.
Oh, that's really lovely.
Because I sat there and I was ready to show the game, and he was like, "It's like, what's all this?" And I was like, "You know what, man? Just don't worry about it. Let's just play and play it without scoring it."
That's super lovely, Jack.
And it was super fun, right? Because because basically it came down to my army does a cool thing, then his army does a cool thing, and then that was basically how we played. And I think that's like closer to true casual 40k than a lot of what people consider to be casual 40k. And I think a lot of that is people who think that they're better than they are, right? Which I wish we didn't live in this world, but we live in a world where, unfortunately, a lot of people have a natural affinity and knack for wargaming, right? I wish I was one of those people. I'm not. But a lot of people do have that ability, and they're just going to be better than you unless you practice your absolute balls off, right? And it's just there's a lot of people out there who will kind of take offense to that.
Yes,
right.
I get that.
We've all said it. Like you would rather play against a 4-1-5-0 player than a 3-2 player, and I say that as a 3-2 player, right? Because it's like it hurts more to go from 4-1 to 3-2 than it does to go from 5-0 to 4-1. I think because if you lose one game, 4-1 is still a massive achievement, right? And if you lose one game, there's a whole host of reasons why that could be. It might be the random secondary cards, but if you're 3-2, like that's kind of it almost feels average, right? It feels like it's almost a slight against you, or your skill, or your list that you came up with, or whatever else it is. And I think there's a lot of people who have a tendency to take things a little bit too seriously in that bracket, and it can make things not fun, right?
Yeah.
Like I had a game at the ITT, the last ITT, where my opponent was so serious throughout the whole thing. I was just like, man, just chill out. We both lost the round already. We're not going to go to the final. Don't worry about it. Let's just have a good time. And it took like a good nearly 2 hours for us to loosen up and start laughing with each other. But I think that's where I stand more on it, is that it's like what you define as a casual player. I think we in general get very little interactions with genuine casual players. And I think that kind of sours the opinion of said casual players. Similarly, those casual players don't get to experience like what
the joys of us.
Yeah, tournament players are like, because they just have old Nige at the club, who is
Bill and Nige, I love it.
who's just been like big fish little pond, beating up kids at 40K.
That is the thing.
That's it.
Yeah, I think the setting. I think the setting is a big one. I think the local club setting just has a whole bunch of stuff written into it where it can get a little bit toxic and a little bit tense and a little bit fraught. And I've definitely experienced this when I was going through in 40K as well.
People just need to be known up to what they are. If you want to play competitive and actually try and win all your games, just say that when you're setting up a game, and don't try and pass it off as casual.
Yeah, for sure.
There's been people at my local who've been pulled up on it, like, stop asking for casual games. We know you're going to bring filth.
Yeah. There are people who actively prey on people looking at casual games, and that's kind of despicable, right? And I think, as we had a very good comment from St. Macau, who's been wonderful today, saying competitive is clear, casual exists on a spectrum, as do 40K players, and everyone's in a different spot on that spectrum, so get upset about misaligned expectations. Yeah, expectation, I think, is the big one. It's definitely the big one. It's what you're looking for in a game, right? I want to shout that, speaking of mood changes, that you remind me of my second game, which was against the Tau player that we've already talked about. Lovely guy called Zach, who I'd not met before. I think it was his first time at one of our events. He was so precise at the start, like super precise with measurements and lines and angles, laser pen, all this stuff, being super really lovely and really collaborative, but being very, very precise. And I was very much there to shove monsters around and vibe. And I turned to John and was like, I don't think this is quite intense for what I'm after here. And then I just immediately shoved an entire army at him, and then everything went catastrophically wrong. And at that point, he got very relaxed, and it was very fun almost immediately. But it was like such a shift change in the type of game expected. I think very, very interesting. All right, I think I had one more. John Black says Tau Zach equals Hawks Dynamics in the chat. That's awesome. Lovely to have you here, Zach. You were an absolute gent to play. It was really, really fun. And I hope you get some buffs to Tau soon so that Roticus doesn't do the things that Roticus did to you ever again. Okay.
I don't know what you could do to Tau to make Roticus not a problem. Yeah. But I appreciate the sentiment nonetheless.
I mean, it would be cool. It was the Hammerheads really needed to show up, and they just didn't. Okay, so my last one. To be honest, it's related. It takes us straight back into that casual, competitive kind of overlap grey area, which is for mine. I think the concept of a gotcha moment is a bit of a cultural red herring that we still have floating around in 40K, and I think rather than gotcha moments, there tends to just be ill-informed players. The gotcha moment was a thing I was very much introduced to by local players when I first started playing, as this horrible thing that happens. And obviously over time, primarily, there are moments in games where something you didn't know could happen happens. But that is mostly on you to identify and prevent, and it is very much your responsibility for doing that. The instances in which your opponent genuinely hides or conceals or dastardly tricks you, I can count on one hand in terms of how that works. And I think a lot of the time people use it as a bit of a catch-all to kind of get out of taking responsibility for just being caught out in a situation or not judging a situation correctly. And I can understand where that instinct comes from, but I think, again, it's a little bit abdicating responsibility. I don't know what you guys think.
I think that it's definitely more true in 10th edition because there's a lot less rules going around in the sense that when two units are interacting, there's two datasheet abilities and there's the 6 stratagems and there's the attachment rule. So it kind of makes it a lot simpler to handle in that case. I have been gotcha before twice while I've been playing 40K, which is since basically the start of Arcs of Omen, essentially, or Nakmund, or whatever it was. One was in 9th edition, where there were way more stratagems to worry about. And it was basically, I asked him, can I shoot this thing? He said yes. then I went to shoot it. Then he said no, right? Because I used the stratagem, right? Or because he used the stratagem. Sorry. So there's
but that's just misleading you, right? That's just straight up bad faith.
Yeah, that's not mentioning.
That's not a
intentionally
gotcha.
that there's a stratagem.
That's
right?
just well,
It's just been-
in a way, is a gotcha.
I think it's just lying. I'd regard that as just lying.
Like if you watch your opponent line up their army to shoot a thing,
Yeah.
and they're measuring distances and line of sight, and blah blah blah, and do all this stuff, and then at the end of it, you just say, "I'm just going to loan off that guy," or "I'm just going to move him to the side of big space." Like that's being an asshole, right? That's that, and that is a thing that does exist. Like if they don't know, and they clearly don't know, and they're going to screw themselves and just lose the game instantly off of it, just say something, because I feel like that can be like, yeah, sure, it is their lack of knowledge, right? But I do think that the game of 40k is, I think, more. It's first and foremost, it's a social thing,
Yeah,
and then it's a competitive game.
that's very fair. Yep.
And I think you're not there to screw people over. You're not there to win at the expense of other people. And I know for me personally, I want to win because I'm better than you.
Exactly.
Right? I want to win because I've outthought you, not because I've deceived you. Right? Because otherwise, what is it? Goku in Dragon Ball, right? He always lets the opponent get to their strongest point, and then he fights them then, right? Because he doesn't want to fight a weakened version of them. Right? So it's kind of a similar kind of thing when I think about it. I don't want to beat people in that way. The only other time that I would say I've been gotcha'd is when I'm playing against someone, and from where I'm standing, I physically cannot see a unit from where I'm standing because of the terrain set up, and I don't know it's there. And then they have rapid ingressed over a wall or something, or charged me from my book. But when I physically, I'm setting up all my stuff, and I'm measuring distances and stuff. There's just a unit that I physically can't see because of the limitations of where I'm standing on the board. And that's another one where you can just say, I've got a thing here, right? Like you can just, but that's like that again. That's just not being an ass, right?
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of that. Because I think it's very, because I when I'm playing, there's an opportunity for that a lot, because the carry-on detachment for Tau has one where you can get back in their transport if you get charged. That one doesn't work unless you're essentially hiding it, because you can just play around it every time. And I think I've maybe once I've forgotten to mention it, like as a pure accident, and I feel like the biggest asshole in the world. So it's and every other time you mention it, because you don't, like, if they know these things, if they have the knowledge, they'll play around it, and it's just it doesn't make you big or cool to win in that way.
No, for sure.
But I do think there is a certain degree of you just kind of have to work together on these things. Right. No one's going to think you're a super awesome badass because you pulled out a heroic intervene that someone couldn't see.
For sure. And I think that's the thing. I think I often, certainly again in the environments in which I encountered the terminology the most, the players who would bemoan it would also be the first to be absolutely delighted if they could get you with some massive combo that they wanted to hit you with in a game, and that you, without being aware of it, would not be aware of. And so I think it's one of those things where, again, as you say, like, if everyone's acting in good faith, you don't have these problems. And then I think for people who are more inclined towards bad faith in games, it's a term which crops up a little bit more.
I think to a certain degree, it's kind of what's it called? I can't remember the terminology I'm using for it. It's a tool to demonize a particular group of players. Like,
exactly.
The term where I heard it used the most actually was when I was learning to play the game. I basically learned to play the game from Vanguard Tactics videos, right? And you guys.
Fuck yeah.
And when I was doing that is where I heard that term used the most. And I don't think that's necessarily like, but it barely ever comes up, right?
No, I agree. I think
it's just used to demonize a particular subset of players that almost don't exist.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's sort of intended to invoke a kind of a sort of villain or a bad way of being that is it makes it sound bigger and more prevalent than it is. Rob, you were saying?
Yeah, no, it comes back around to, like, for me, if I don't remember when I've really been gotcha'd, but I think if I miss something, is the thing that I take away from that is, fuck, I forgot to ask that question.
Yeah, that's
Like,
that's how I feel.
It's like, so it's like, it's I've charged before and been heroically intervened, and they're like, oh, I'm going to heroically intervene. I'm like, fuck, I didn't actually see that unit. I didn't ask if I was going to be. Didn't know they had a reactive move which could get them closer. It's it's kind of, you got to use it as a learning experience. Like, oh, I could punch you. Go, oh, cool. How do I stop it happening next time?
Yeah, completely.
And yeah, now I just constantly talk while I play. It's the only time I actually talk. Usually I'm quiet as hell, except when I'm playing.
Yeah, absolutely. John Black in the chat says, Jack said a couple of weeks back about successful teams pin being satisfying. Yeah, absolutely. In a game, if you can help your opponent and see the realization they haven't got a good choice, that's the dream. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what good play is, right? Yeah.
When you are looking at, when you set something up and your opponent is like talking through what they can do, what they can't, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do here. Like that's the sense where you've outplayed them and you can feel satisfied about it without being an asshole.
They have full agency. They can make a choice. It's just that you've not left them any good ones to make. That's when you're playing at a very high standard, right? Very nice. Okay. Was that all of them? Did we do all the takes? Did any of you have anything there? Okay. What we're going to do then is rattle through the podcast questions, which was a bunch of takes, loads and loads of takes, all the takes all the time, and some unpopular opinions. I'm going to throw one of these at each of my casted players. They are going to very briefly and succinctly and charismatically respond, and then we're going to roll through, see how many of them we can get through. Okay, so if we go to where it began, goodness gracious, there's so many of them. Okay, we've got one from Andy, who is evidently feeling the weight of attention on his beloved Death Guard, because his name now says Death Guard main before it was cool. Share your toys, Andy. Says, Overwatch is annoying and should be removed. Rob, what do you think about this?
Overwatch should be changed. 24 inches is too much.
Yeah, I think the range might be an issue. I completely agree. Okay, very nice. Next up, we have B-Mob, who says, round 5 end turn scoring should work for both players. What do you think, Jack?
No, because going first gives a massive advantage on tempo and how you play the game. If you find that second turn is way better than first turn for you consistently, then you're not playing aggressively enough on the first turn.
100%, completely agree. Martin says Liam VSL should be nerfed in the next data slate. What do you think, Chris?
100%.
Yeah, completely agree. I think just take a bit of length off him. He's too tall. I think maybe if we can trim him,
TTS
he's got that's it. He's got panoramic view. I think that's what we need to adjust. So maybe make him sit down when he plays. Maybe that would be a nice little bit of red text in the data slate.
Or cut off his legs.
I didn't want to go there, but I don't think he deserves that. We can't recommend that on a show for people. Right, okay, next up we have Paint Celestine, who says, oh no, this is where the conversation starts. And then Chimera says 20. His opinion is 20 Jackals shouldn't be 20 points more than 20 Cadians and 10 more than 20 Kree. Jack, you like guard. What do you think?
Utility is a big thing. And it's important to take into context of these scenarios. Jackals are way better in combat and have access to better buffs than Cadians do in terms of damage output.
Absolutely. We did have a follow-up from Paint Celestine, which was asking about the Plus's thoughts on Thousand Suns and wants to know what happened to Jack's guard journey. Now, we've already addressed this. Greater Greatness is continuing. Those will continue to come out in monthly installments, so don't worry, you'll hear from Jack soon. Thousand Suns, we will do another day. We're not going anywhere near Thousand Suns today. Suffice to say, it's cool, it's interesting, there's a lot going on, but we'll come back to it. Gareth's take is there's not enough tanks in 40k. They need to be buffed so that more people take all tank armies. What do you think, Chris?
Well, as someone who spent a lot of time hiding from all tank armies with my Grey Knights, no, go away.
Yeah, stop it, Gareth. There are lots of all tank armies. I don't like the only army that I like all tanks on is guard. I will allow it. I will allow a field of guard tanks. I find it very annoying when anyone else does it. It's just irritating. Okay. Pancake says, bring back the Force org chart. What do you think, Rob?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
Stop people from bringing... What was it?
Was that when you had like fast attack and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're allowed a certain number.
Going back to the tank thing, how good was that triple gladiator, the triple gladiator list when it was like 12 gladiator tanks?
that was really enthusiastically fun to play against. I loved that one.
I think it's fine as long as you don't introduce multiple force org charts per list as per 9th edition.
And that's what ends up happening, right? Yeah. And then they did Arcs where they were like, "Fuck it, take whatever you want."
Yeah, but then different force org charts for different attachments could also be good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Some more talking about Overwatch that continues for a little while. I heard them towards the community answers channel at that stage.
Nailed it, and they immediately responded.
Yeah, and then they carry on talking. Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, so War Masters Matt, the very own Matt Bell from Team England, says, unpopular 40k opinion, Necrons need buffs. I do feel like Necrons are maybe in a little bit of a rut in terms of direction, but that book just keeps on giving, Matt. It just keeps on finding a new way. It won't die.
Or, in fact, an old way to try again.
Or an old way, to go back around in a complete circle. Sorry, go on. Jack disagrees.
I think Necrons is one of the best designed codexes in the out of all of them. Codexes that have come out. I think there's so much room to innovate with that book. I think you just need to. It's just not obvious power like some other books have. So you just need to put more time into it.
Matt.
I mean, Matt has been absolutely binning people with Awakened Dynasty for like the last 2 months, so like it's still very good. I think sometimes Necrons, just by dint of what they do, can be a bit of a frustrating army.
I think that's a joke answer for a question. To be fair, I don't think that's actually a serious one.
Oh, completely. But, we won't take him out for that.
Just for the record,
Russell says consistent actions either all end together, either end of turn or opposition turn, and Scory reflects this. So I think Russell is saying make all actions undertaken finish up in the same time frame. Rob, what do you think?
Please don't make it end of player's turn for my squishy elves.
Yeah, I'd. Some things are easier to do than others. It's fine. Yeah, I don't. It's fine for them to be different. I think that's okay. Yeah, I don't mind them.
Yeah, I think it's good to have. It's a cool counterplay to have different things work. So to give you the opportunity to counterplay it in different ways, whether it's screening for for teleport homers or locus, or if it's actually going and killing the thing, doing sabotage and recover. The reason sabotage and recover don't feel very good is because they don't give enough points when you do it successfully.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And those are cards people get stuck with.
Doesn't. So Death Guard, sabotage, great. Drukari, sabotage, horrible. The opposite behind every life.
Yeah. Unless you're doing it in turn 5 at the end, at the back, and they can't stop you, and some venom or something fucking gets you 6 points. It's the best. The absolute best. Okay, at this point, John P. Watts intervenes and says none of these opinions are unpopular enough and starts to inject some spice. He says casual games are not really games. They are an activity, and conversations about balance and unit viability are mostly irrelevant for them. And if they are not, you are not playing a casual game. That's kind of interesting. What do you think about that?
Absolutely correct. I think I covered it kind of earlier.
And they're also being played by the worst kind of people.
In the worst kind of places.
I think if you are not prepared to do stuff like just change the rules so it's more fun for you at the time, that's the kind of level of things you should be doing.
Yeah.
In order to have an enjoyable casual game. If you're not prepared to do that sort of thing, then you're not playing a casual game.
Completely. So I had a game in our TTS area in the Discord recently where it was a really fun game and it was a nice chat and it was very much a slight mismatch of vibe and level and preparedness. And it was one of those games that was like, this game will be a lot more fun for everyone involved if I slightly change at what I'm doing. I'm not. There's no point going for the absolute killer players here. That's not going to make, and there's not going to be anything fun about that. So you change things around, and it made it a much more enjoyable game. Obviously, at casual level, you're either not even thinking about that, or you're just choosing to leave that thinking, even at the level of what you bring in the first place, right?
Like if you're at a club and there's a kid there, like a 12-year-old kid who's like learning 40k, maybe you don't put the balance data slate on his guard army.
Yeah.
You just let him play it out of the book.
Yeah, completely that. Crazy Warbucks Gaming in the chat says, I love being a casual player. Ed, you're not casual. Stop it.
Stop being toxic, Ed.
Stop it, Ed. St. McCall says, online discourse has made people care about things like data slates that don't apply to them, and that discourse makes the game harder to balance. That's interesting.
100%. I think that's what I was just saying a minute ago. Like, for narrative gamers, like, you shouldn't give a flying fuck about what competitive players are doing. The idea that competitive players ruin the game for casual players a completely ludicrous take, because you can just do whatever the heck you want because you're playing in a club.
Completely free.
You can make the rules whatever the hell you like.
Yeah. So Michael says casual players are upset about shit that doesn't matter to them. Yeah, I mean, to broadly extend that point, people across the globe are currently upset about shit that doesn't matter to them all the time. That's like the fun backdrop which we're all living through. So that's a lot of fun. What else have we got? I then encourage people to get more controversial. I think I immediately regret it because Will Lovell says Vic and Dave are overrated. Rob, what do you think?
That is a big take. They are lovely.
They're lovely. Yeah,
I've had two lovely games against.
This is clearly bait.
Yeah. I think, in general, you are allowed to disagree with what another person says.
Yeah.
But you also, at the same time, have to respect when they are able to prove and back up what they say.
Which they sure as fuck do.
You know, I might not agree with everything every person on YouTube says, but if they go 5-0 event consistently, I'm not going to say they're not good.
yeah, absolutely. John C says Deep Strike should have a chance to fail. What do you think about that, Chris?
Oh yeah, that's pretty much scatter dice.
Can you imagine playing Grey Knights with that?
Like,
oh fuck!
Fucking bring it. Yeah, it's interesting.
No. What?
So
no.
Fun narrative content is when you have to roll a dice when your reserves are coming in and they can be delayed by a turn. That's in like more casual narrative games. I really enjoy shit like that. Like on a 1 or a 2, they're just not happening this turn. They're delayed.
When a bad thing happens to you, it can be fun.
Yeah.
When you get shit on repeatedly, it's not fun. When I was 8, I had a Raven Guard army, and I deep struck some Terminators, and they all died. And that was the first time I ever deep struck anything, and I cried because I was 8.
Oh, that's vicious.
That's not fun for anyone.
No
one wants to watch an 8. That guy made an 8-year-old cry.
Yeah,
he probably didn't feel good about it. So.
In some terms, I think there's just like in terms of only a 5-turn game and all that sort of thing. Like, there's just so many issues if we're trying to make it competitive. It doesn't fundamentally work, unfortunately. It just adds so much luck or bad luck to stuff.
Yeah.
Slight side tangent that applies to this. Anything that you do in the game, like it shouldn't. Like if you're going to invest in something to do something, whether it's using a stratagem or deep striking, putting something in reserve deep strike it shouldn't have a chance to fail. If you spend a CP on a stratagem, it shouldn't just not do anything on a 1 or a 2 or whatever. That's what
about 4-up fight on death then, Jack?
That one is a bit different, I think. But I'm thinking like the Brood Brothers,
like 9th edition Vex spending 5 CP for not stopping a stratagem because you rolled double ones.
That was a good time. That was a good time. That was after a lot of surgery. That's how that went. But, yeah.
I'm thinking like Brood Brothers detachment, the stratagem that lets you put something back into reserve, like the guard index attachment, but it just doesn't work on a 1 or 2.
Well, their tech's not as good, Jack. They haven't serviced it in a while because they've been going rogue.
That's not fun.
Oh dear, I'm liking this Brew Brothers direction from you though. Let's nurture that. Finley says tanks should only be able to move in the direction they point in. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that, Jack?
I think my hover tanks probably get on pretty well with that.
Yeah. Oh mate, amazing.
Why would you just replace everything with trains? Why not? Let's get extra autistic with it. Warhammer's not enough for us. Let's get trains on the go.
Let's do it. Andy, the Death Guard main, thinks Custodians should not be a standalone faction and should be rolled into the Imperial Agents. But what do you think, Chris?
I can see that working, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think those are strong words from a Death Guard player.
No, they roll 4s and they're tough.
No, I mean they just go straight in the CSM book. Thank you.
That's true. They used to be. Divergent Marine chapters should not be allowed to use detachments from the main book at all and should not get full access to all the Marine data sheets. Rob, what do you think? Is that where you were going with your thinking?
That was my first one, yeah.
Yeah. So, see off Space Wolf Stormlance and Blood Angel Stormlance and Dark Angel Stormlance and Ultramarines Gladius. Yeah, all that good stuff. All big knights should be allowed to fall back and charge. Why not? You can have that one, Andy. That's a cute little take. Why not? Let them do big stompy things if they want. That's fine.
It's fair.
Scrivo popped up. He's not on the show today, but he's in the chat. All 40k is match play, even narrative games. What do you think, Chris?
Scrivo's wrong. Like, it doesn't really matter what he said. Scrivo's wrong.
Yeah, I think on principle that's
fine.
We'll move that one along. That's good. Goodness, they did say a lot, didn't they? Wow. I think we're getting there. There's a bit more love for blast templates and flamer templates. Flamer templates are a funny one. I don't hate the flamer template idea. I did lose an entire kill team to one flamer, and when they have templates in kill team, and I lost my entire team to one flamer, which did hammer home how powerful stuff like that can be when you have that.
The problem with the flamer template is it was never quite to scale, because if you like sized it up, the flamer would affect like a whole street's worth of distance because of the way that 8 inches is a long way, in 40k for the scale.
Yeah. Gilles Boas says games of 40k should finish immediately after deployment. We put out 2 armies, everything looks great, perfect time to call it right there and enjoy the rest of the day. What do you think?
The board looks so beautiful.
It does. That's the best time to get photos, isn't it?
I mean, if you want to do that, play international level 40k. That happens all the time. Deploy the army, shaking a 10-10, go get a beer.
Yeah. Max in chat says once per game effects that go off on a 2-up should just work. Fighting against Celestine just to have her not get back up just feels bad. I think 2-up effects are the greatest test of your character you can possibly have, Max. And practicing shrugging those fuckers off will make you a better person. That's my advice to you.
I say my character does not need to be tested.
Jackson,
I
just
agree
don't
with
take
Max.
it.
Yeah, I agree with Max.
No, so I've learned to laugh through far too many dead archons. You just get used to it. You just get used to it.
I too have learned to do that.
It's a good time for everyone, and there'd be no story without it. There'd just be a guy with a 2-up invuln that just worked, and it'd be very annoying.
It's funny every time they fail it.
Not funny. I can with 100% confidence call it, roll it, and fail it now, and it never fails. It's beautiful. It's a good time. Very, very, very good. Alrighty. Tom Redgate, I think it's our Tom Redgate, is on a campaign against rhinos, saying all rhinos should be removed from the game or substantially changed. They're an outdated model which doesn't align with the size of modern-day vehicles and styles, and the clown car breaks the immersion. Too many armies use them as a crutch. What do you think, Chris?
Well, yeah, the tanks. You're not going to run across the field, are you?
I quite like rhinos. They've had a hell of an addition, the old rhino.
I kind of agree. I'm totally fine with Space Marines losing access to their rhino. They've got other transports now.
You can just. I mean, the imposter.
I'd like to see the cross section of 12 Plague Marines in a rhino.
I think with the Impulsor, on some fundamental level with the Impulsor, they just misunderstood what people want transports to do, and they're like, "We'll create this cool hover transport. They can have 6 people in it, and they'll be fucking grateful." And you're like, I think if you could run more people in it, people would be all over Impulsors all the time.
There is a full transport.
There is, but it's also a gun tank, so they got a bit. It's like the land fort once you go up beyond that, right?
Well, there is one you can have 10 dudes in. It's got the shield dome on it, right?
Can that take 10 dudes?
I'm sure it can.
I don't think it can. No, I think it's only got
I'm
6.
sure they can. I'm definitely sure there's one that can.
The repulsor can take 10 or 12.
There's one that can take 10, I'm sure.
Big repulsor.
Yeah, that's interesting. John says flyers can now be allowed to be worth bringing, what with -1 to hit stats gone.
Correct.
It's time to forgive flyers, do we think?
I just don't think they need special
ones, yeah. If we can make AdMech ones,
why you like
4 or 6 of them, that'd be ideal.
I think just allow one in a list, let it do a sort of strafing run when it comes in turn 2, and then I think that would be cool.
Just have them be a vehicle.
No, I don't like it. Let's not get too permissive. They'll be everywhere and they'll kill everyone.
Just have them play the same as everything else. You just don't need to have special wacky weird rules.
I think they should be wacky weird because it's the freaking plane.
In fact, make them the only thing that can ignore terrain of the flyers.
That is fair.
Vehicles. And then
bring back 9 flyers.
Yeah.
Bring back minus buffs as well.
-4 wet wraith riders. Yeah.
You're all monsters. Okay, right. I think that'll do us for today, boys.
Can I just answer John Black's one just because I see it a lot? And I really want to answer this one.
What's this about the D6?
Is the D6 the biggest constraint in 40k? It's not. It's the biggest benefit to 40k. Yeah. Like one of the things about like it's totally fine to look at a D10 system if you're like a big D&D player or you play lots of different game systems and you're like the mega nerd and you like totally pick things up really fast. The benefit of the D6
which John is, I can tell you.
And the benefit of the D6 system is that it's very accessible. It's kind of the same reason why football is one of the most popular games in the world, is because all you need for it is a ball, right? Yeah. The D6s make it super accessible. I know you need like models and stuff, and it's a bit different, but it's a lot easier for people to wrap their head around when you're just using D6s rather than D10s. And lots of people have D6s just kind of lying around. But yeah, it's just, I think it does a lot for the accessibility of the game. And I think that kind of addition to the complexity is for it's for a very small subset of people. I think it would actually benefit
completely. I'm going to leave you with an exchange in the chat because we're calling it a day. Thanks for tuning in. It's been great to have you. We've got the 1-2 here. Aaron Wilson says, explain why I can punch a plane without a jump pack without losing my immersion. To which St. Mikkel says, human pyramid. That is the note we're going to end it on. You've all been wonderful. We will see you again next time. Bye-bye.